It is the largest incursion onto Russian soil since the war began. Two groups of Russian volunteers fighting for Ukraine have jointly claimed responsibility. They were supported by armored vehicles, including US-made Humvees, as seen in this video released on Tuesday. The Russian Volunteer Corps and the Freedom of Russia Legion have disclosed little about their financing, numbers, or degree of support they received from Ukraine. However, the US insisted it did not encourage or enable strikes inside Russia. A State Department spokesman acknowledged reports circulating on social media and elsewhere that US-supplied weapons had been used, but said his country was skeptical at this time of the veracity of these reports. The Russian Defense Ministry insisted the attack had been repulsed, although there were reports of continued fighting in settlements near the border.
In the course of counter-terrorist operations, these nationalists were stopped and crushed by aviation, artillery and by the border protection regiments of the Western Military District.
The incursion is an embarrassment for Moscow. It may be designed to force Russia to redeploy its forces ahead of a Ukrainian counterattack. Ukraine has denied direct involvement, but that hasn't convinced the Kremlin or the Western military analysts.
So yes, absolutely. They're hoping that in some small way they can contribute to the downfall of the Putin regime. But at the same time, we have to realize that these are not independent forces. Although the claim is, Kiev is saying this is nothing to do with us, these are just Russian volunteers, they are controlled by Ukrainian military intelligence. They rely on the Ukrainians for weapons and support and such like.
In Ukraine, President Zelensky visited troops near the front line in Donetsk. He congratulated them on their resistance and awarded medals for bravery. President Vladimir Putin held a similar ceremony in the Kremlin. In Brussels, EU defense ministers met and were joined by NATO's Secretary General. He welcomed the decision to supply F-16s to Ukraine, but said increasing supplies of ammunition is just as important.
To continue our support to Ukraine, we also need to ramp up production of weapons and of ammunition. And therefore, one of the issues I will discuss with the defense ministers is how we can work even more closely together, NATO and the European Union, on increasing and strengthening the transatlantic industrial base.
F-16s will change the balance of forces in the longer term. But to sustain Ukraine's imminent offensive, ammunition is still the most urgent requirement. Sena Saylan, TRT World.